How much of that from your side tonight do you think was kind of maybe lack of urgency, lack of desperation, considering the
Yeah,
circumstance?
I didn't have them ready to play. Clearly, we committed 3 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game, and I think they were 13 for 13 from the line after the first quarter. So we can't come out with that lack of defensive focus and energy and expect to beat a great team on their own floor in a closeout game. So they took it to us. They were awesome tonight, and we got to be better.
Conversation at half, and I mean, did you know you were probably going to pull the plug pretty quick?
Yeah, I wasn't going to chase, this game. Obviously, with Game 6 coming up in 48 hours. So I talked to Draymond. I said, "What do you think?" He said, 5 minutes, and so we gave the starting group the first 5 or 6 minutes, and we kind of had, unless we had made a huge run, kind of had in mind that we would, pull the plug.
Was there any temptation, though, when you guys got down to, I think it was 12 or 13,
None.
to bring him in?
Yeah.
No?
You can't do that. When you make a move like that, and then the starters are on the bench, you can't go back to them. It's just not the right thing to do.
What can you say about the fight, though, that your guys'
Awesome.
bench gave?
Loved our bench group. They came in. They forced Houston to bring their starters back in. They set a tone that we're going to need for Game 6. And I thought, even though we lost the game, I thought it was crucial that we fought the way we did in the fourth quarter.
And for someone like Moses, whose shot's been a little gone, for him to get the 25 points, get his shot going, how important is that?
Yeah, it's great. Got some rhythm. Very important for him to go out there and compete and play the way he did. So yeah, I mean, there were some positives in what was otherwise obviously a decisive loss. Houston was great, and they took it to us right away. But like I said, it was an important finish.
Steve, one of the things with such an experienced team is there's a comp for almost everything, and I'm wondering if this situation reminds you at all of the Game 5 in Memphis, and which you, of course, missed, but similar feeling?
Yeah, similar vibe, down 30 in the first half. I think in Memphis we might have been down 40 or 50 even. I don't remember exactly, but similar vibe, young team, on their home floor, trying to stay alive. They came out and threw haymakers at us. They made every shot in the first quarter. So we got what we deserved.
I also, the broadcast back home, there's a lot of talk from Bob Fitzgerald that they're targeting Steph's thumb and deliberately trying to hurt him. And I'm just wondering if that's your view of things, and if you've talked to the ref about it.
Yeah. So, the rule, the NBA is once the shot has been released, you're allowed to hit the guy's arm. And so what's happened in the league this year is players they're going to outsmart, the rules. They know what they're doing. So players all over the league are just taking shots at guys' shooting hands after release because they know it's not going to be a foul. And I'm very confident that next year the league will fix it because it's only a matter of time before somebody, breaks a thumb or breaks a hand or whatever. But these are the rules. I do believe they're allowed to call a flagrant if they want. The refs could call a flagrant if the guy winds up and takes a shot. But no, it's been happening across the league all year long. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but we have to take it through the league process to get that changed, and that'll probably happen this summer, I would guess. No, I don't think it's impacting him. It's just, again, it's players are going to do whatever they're allowed to do, and so after on every release, Steph's getting hit, but it's basically within the rules. So this is how the league wants it right now, and I know we got 30 coaches who all think it's just idiotic that we allow this. So we'll have to take it through the competition committee, all that stuff this summer, and eventually we'll get it fixed. But right now, this is how the league works. Whatever the rules are, the players they're all really, really smart, and you you can't blame them at all for doing whatever it takes to win the game. It's the highest level of competition on earth, and so it is what it is.
What challenges are you seeing that their zone is presenting, and what are the keys to beating an effective zone defense?
Well, I thought we were pretty good against the zone in Game 4. You can't get stagnant. You have to push the ball. You have to play with pace and movement and get to spots. And we definitely had some poor possessions against that zone tonight.
Steve, it looked like I saw Jimmy and Draymond kind of talking things out. I think Steph was talking to you at some point. Because you guys have this championship experience, how fast do you know that, because you've been with these guys in this situation, that they turn the page and start looking toward the next game?
I mean, our guys have been here many times. Jimmy's been here many times. I think a couple of years ago, Jimmy was part of that Miami team that was up 3-0 against Boston, lost the next 3, and then had to win on the road in Game 7. This is what the playoffs are about. I mean, it's just incredibly competitive. Everybody who is playing now, who's still alive, has great basketball players and great coaches. And, I've said it throughout the series, Houston's a great team. Ime's a great coach, 52 wins, the 2 seed, athletic, they got all these lottery picks. So they're a hell of a team. And this is the playoffs, it's just as much a mental test, an emotional test as it is a physical test, as a skill test. It's what makes it fun. It's what makes it challenging. It's what keeps you up at night. But this is what we do, and we love it.
Steve, how would you say Jimmy Butler was moving out there? What do you think he was healthy? I know before the game.
I'm sorry, who?
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Kind of what do you think of his health and how he was moving tonight?
It's tough to gauge based on, the way the game went. A game got out of hand early, and I think it wasn't his best night, but I think he was moving fine. I'm not concerned about him for Friday.
Just to follow up on their zone defense, did they do anything differently tonight, or was it more just
No.
your execution?
No, same zone that basically they played the other night, and we were out of sorts from the beginning, especially defensively, and I think that carried over to our offense. It's hard to play offense when you're taking the ball out of the net every single play. At one point, I think at halftime, their effective field goal percentage was 95%. I've never seen that in my life. So you're not winning that game.
What was so problematic defensively? I mean, you mentioned the early fouls, but I guess without seeing the film yet, like where did you guys screw up most?
Well, honestly, the fouls set just a brutal tone for us. We can't. You can't set a tone defensively by fouling. You have to set a tone by putting pressure on the ball and being in the right spots to help and building your shell, rebounding, forcing the shots that you're willing to give up. We didn't do any of that. Thank you.
First question, Danielle. Ime, tonight obviously a much better start than last game. What was the key there to just come out hot and keep the foot on the gas, at least until the bench came in?
All of the above. Physicality, attention to detail, focus, effort, communication, all of the above. The things we talked about where we have to be consistent in those areas, we were from the start on both ends. Great defense. Had some guys that made some threes that we don't mind taking them, and other than that, we locked in on everybody and then turned our defense off and got out and ran.
How big was the man in that defensive effort?
Yeah, of course, he's the head of the snake as far as that. When it comes to Curry specifically, the ball pressure without fouling, obviously picked him a few times there, but just wearing on him, and then everybody else doing their job as well. Missed him a few times on some offensive rebounds where we didn't locate him, but other than his flurry in the second quarter where he had 11 of his 13, we did a great job.
Coach, it feels like there was a level of composure tonight. Like, just how important was that on that side of the ball, just in terms of the composure of the overall game?
On defense or offense?
Everything.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, I think our focus was great. Feels like we're getting more consistent recognition of what they're doing throughout the series as it goes on, trying to wear them down and taking away certain actions, and we did that. And try to make them make plays and not run their plays. And so when they have to beat us one-on-one, we feel that's to our advantage, and obviously everybody's locked in on that tonight, swarming around, and played great on both sides.
How much of an advantage is it when Fred is playing like the way he's been playing the last 3 games?
Yeah, obviously that's a big thing for us. He missed shots early in the series, and would have been a different story probably if he had played the way he was playing offensively. Now just making shots, coming out extra aggressive, but doing a great job on Green as well, recognizing their sets and kind of getting everybody set there. So the offense is obviously the icing on the cake, added bonus, but he's doing it all, facilitating, scoring, and guarding extremely well.
Since this is this group's first go round in the playoffs, you get a chance to learn something about them each time out. Considering the stakes, what did you learn about your group tonight with their backs against the wall?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think our recognition has grown through the series. We like it to happen overnight or first game, but take some time, and we're taking away certain things, and that's obviously going to be beneficial to us. But we haven't quit all year and don't really back down from challenges, so expect us to come out with that effort and focus tonight. And so obviously locked in there and have to go do it in San Francisco next.
Fred ties the game 104-104 back in game 4. Then he had 14 early kind of points tonight. Does he feel, or do you think he feels in big moments he's the catalyst for you guys? He needs to get you guys going?
I think he takes whatever the game gives him, and they're keyed in on Jalen a lot, and he can free up there a little bit and create those advantages for himself, but also make the right reads like he usually does. So he's not the type to force it. Obviously, like I said, wasn't shooting at his best the first few games, but had the same great looks and has been knocking them down. So it's a little bit different now, but whatever it takes, he's not a stat guy. He's a winning guy.
Ime has done more on ball as the series has progressed. Was there a turning point for him in terms of figuring it out on the offensive end?
Yeah, I mean, he has an advantage. It's you have to create certain driving lanes for him, get our spacing correct, and not just make it as vanilla as it was early. Him driving downhill against a big. They do switch some guys that we feel we have favorable matchups with him with his size and athleticism, and he's doing a really good job at attacking and finishing as well. So you lump it into Fred and Jalen, some of the guys that were missing shots early, he was as well. And the last 2 games, he's kind of found his rhythm, and the shots are going in now, so it looks different.
Defensively, you were able to hold Curry and Butler to just 13 and 8 points respectively. I know you talked about Amen's presence on that side of the ball earlier, but just overall, how did you feel about the entire team effort to kind of limit those guys tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Amen and Dillon with those matchups, but there's like you said, especially on Curry, full team effort, and he got loose in transition at times in a few games, but I think our recognition there was better. Still lost him on the offensive rebounds, have to locate him there, but to your point, like I've always said, their whole team is geared toward getting them shots, and we have to be locked in and communicate on the defensive end. It's not just one guy guarding them, it's everybody being on point with their recognition, communication, and Fred's a big piece of that, with Green, guarding Green, and knowing the actions they're going to run. So, hell of a job by everybody. Like I said, he had that little spurt in the second quarter, but other than that, hell of a job tonight.
Ime here, one of the Warriors broadcasters tonight on the broadcast accused Dillon Brooks of intentionally swiping at Curry's right thumb. How would you respond to that?
I wouldn't. If that's the response, I wouldn't.
Coach, after game 4, you said that the only thing that you told your team was once we get back, just win. That's all you got to do. Is that one game at a time approach the same message you're going to give them heading back to Golden State?
Yeah, it's not just win the game. It's win the possession, the quarter, the half, and stay locked in as far as that. However long it takes, whether it's a quick start like tonight or grinding them out like we have before and gotten back into games, we have to figure out how to get it done. And so with our group, I don't look at the home and away thing. I look at how we're playing and how we're starting and what our focus level is. And so go to Golden State, do it, and put some real pressure on them, bringing them back here.
Obviously, you would like to keep the starters out and rest them some more for Friday, but what did you see that necessitated bringing them back into the game?
Lack of scoring and lack of rebounding, really. The areas that hurt you are turnovers. When you have somebody at a 30-point deficit, turnovers, let them back in the game, 3-point shots and offensive rebounds, and they did a few of those. We had 4 points for, I think, the first 6+ minutes. And so got from 30 to about 17, and with 6.5 to go, and wanted to get us back in and get settled. And guys did a great job.
Your team early in the game was really attacking the basket, especially the baselines. Anything that you saw in the film that made you feel like you can get easier baskets, especially scoring from the baseline?
It's always about our spacing, really. And, we were great in game 2, had some slippage in game 3, got back to it in these last 2. And so if we guard like we're capable and get a score up in the 105, 110, whatever that is, we feel we have a great shot. And the spacing is obviously a necessity in this series because they load up, help off the corners. They're a positioned defensive team that don't have a lot of rim protection, but the guys are in the right spots all the time. We have to give our outlets there, and that takes away from our turnovers. Guys cutting on top of each other, playing in the crowd. And so if we can have patience, get to our spots, and we'll either get the drop-offs or get on the glass on the misses, and it's been a good formula for us.
What do you think was the biggest factor that allowed your team to not only respond with their backs against the wall, but dominate tonight?
Like I just mentioned a few things with, focus, intensity, attention to detail, recognition, communication, all those things that we're harping on that you have to be consistent to win in the playoff series. I think we're at our best tonight as far as that. And then once we do that and take care of everything, we can get out and run with some pace and, turn defense to offense. And so it's been our formula all year to good basketball is getting stops and get out and run, and then having patience in the half court. And like I just mentioned, our spacing and execution of sets was great.
You said before it's only a matter of time before Fred starts knocking down shots. Two nights in a row. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, confidence, not wavering. He had the looks in those first few games. Was missing them, but he's taking the same shots. Always stays confident and doesn't waver from or turn down from the moment. So whether it requires him to score more or make the plays, he's going to do that. But even more so, it feels like he's hunting those shots and being extra aggressive and has a nice little pep in his step right now.
Ime, with Amen, what was the most impressive thing about how assertive he was tonight at both ends?
Yeah, it's hard to pick up full court on a guy like Curry. Obviously, they're setting high screens for him, so playing without fouling is a big thing. Obviously, he got his hands on a few balls and got those steals and ignited us there, but that's kind of what he does, regardless of the opponent. And defensively, though, that's one thing, but offensively, finding his rhythm, getting downhill and attacking. Other than the first turnover we had, he was decisive on his drives to the basket, and like they said, got the drop-offs, got the lob threat, all the above. He's setting screens, handling, playing in the dunker, and so very well-rounded game, and made a few jump shots as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Moses, what do you think went wrong defensively tonight as a team?
It's hard to guard turnovers. We had a lot of those, so they guard their plan in transition. That's how they like to play.
What can you say about your guys' fight in the second half there with the bench unit?
Yeah, the goal was to make them put their starters in and not get a break. So we accomplished that. We didn't get the win, obviously, but we got something out of it.
How important was it for you maybe in those minutes, too, to get some offensive flow going for yourself as well?
Yeah, it was fun. Just getting out there playing free. Nothing really to lose. Yeah, it was fun, but, obviously didn't get it done.
Moses, 3 years ago, you guys had kind of a similar situation in Memphis when you got blown off the floor in Game 5 and came back and won Game 6. Any memories or flashbacks to that game tonight for you guys?
Yeah, well, it was even more similar to 3 years ago. We played Dallas, and we had a closeout chance in Dallas. And same thing, they was up by a lot. We came in. It was me, J.K., Belly, Cheese, D. Lee, Juan, maybe. I forgot who else. Cheese wasn't there. But, so they brought their starters back, tied them out. They had to fight for the win, and we walked them off the next game. So let's finish that story the same way.
Is that something that this team that works to your benefit, that there's kind of a comp for, there's so much playoff experience in your group that there's a comp for almost every situation that you can kind of draw on?
Yeah, that's definitely cool. It's a good thing to be, good position to be in, having experience and things that remind you of other times because you can learn from the lessons before.
Has there been any chatter within the team about the way Houston is closing out on Steph, particularly swiping down on a shooting hand?
Nah.
What did you see just in that whole little skirmish with Pat and TJD and everything that happened in that situation?
Well, I actually wasn't. I was looking the other direction when it happened. But, Pat a dog, getting in at the end of the game, get Sengun talking or whatever it may be. I don't know what the situation was, honestly.
Y'all got a dog on the court with Jimmy Butler. Can you just tell us what you've seen him add on the court, but really more so behind the scenes?
Yeah, on the court, he's added wins. So that's always good. Off the court, he's got a big presence. He's himself all the time. I respect that. He's obviously a good guy to have in the locker room. Just the conversation that he brings. Like I said, it's in a world, in a game like this, you got to conform. You got to work as a group. So a lot of times that can be groupthink. Everybody got the same idea sometimes, but Jimmy is himself. He got a different playlist, different music that he listens to, different routine, and that's refreshing to have. Yep.
What do you feel like went wrong defensively to start that first quarter?
I think we were really bad in transition. We get matched up. They got loose, hit some shots, and then they just had it going.
Steve mentioned at half that he kind of had a conversation with you about how much to chase it in the second half, how much not to. What was kind of your calculation there? And do you believe? I don't know how many minutes you finished at tonight, but do you believe that could maybe help a little bit going into Friday?
It is what it is. Obviously, it's not ideal to play that amount of minutes because if we're winning, play way more. But, yeah, we had a quick conversation, and he was just saying, I don't think we should chase it. I said, cool. We'll give it 5-6 minutes. We can't turn it fast and pull the plug.
Draymond, they weren't playing whoop that trick, but does this remind you at all of the Memphis Game 5 when kind of the same thing happened? And is one of the benefits of your guys having so much playoff experience that there's like a comp for almost everything?
Yeah, you kind of seeing everything. They weren't playing whoop that trick, but they may as well have been. But, at this point in our careers, we've seen it all, had all the experiences, so you got something to draw back on. But, yeah, they played a good game. But whether they win by 1 or 50, it's a playoff series. It counts as one win.
Draymond, Steve mentioned he noticed that defenders, when they're closing out, they're trying to almost hit Steph's thumb as he's shooting. Have you noticed that, or how much have you seen that, especially in these playoffs?
Yeah, I noticed it. I think it's pretty obvious, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Do you think the league should crack down on it at all?
I'm not close out. Just the toughness that he's brought, the smarts, the competitive fire, and then obviously he's just a great basketball player. So he's brought a lot to this team, and we're gonna make sure we capitalize on it.
What do you think happened mostly defensively tonight?
It was just a slow start for us on both sides of the ball. We missed some shots, turned the ball over early, and didn't make them miss at all. That was the game for us at the beginning.
How'd you describe the way the bench played in the end of the third and fourth quarter?
Yeah, inspiring. To get us back in the game, give them a chance at something special. kudos to those guys for staying ready, for fighting, for not giving up, and always staying ready because you never know when your number's gonna be called, and it was tonight, and they played their asses off.
Jimmy, what was your level of movement tonight compared to last game?
It's getting better. It's getting there. Another day and some change of recovery and rest. But that's no excuse for how I played, how we played as a whole. Like I always say, if anybody takes that floor, you're expected to go out there and produce, and more than anything, you're expected to go out there and win.
Jimmy, this team has kind of been through a similar situation. They were down 55 in Memphis when they were up 3-1, lost, but then closed things out in Game 6 in 2022. And Steve mentioned how you had that 3-0 lead against Boston, then ended up winning in Game 7. What does it take from your experience to kind of rebound from something like this where you don't close the team out but then can do it later?
We're fine. Our confidence isn't going to waver any. We're going to start out better. We're going to play a better overall game because we know how good of a team we are as a unit. We know how good our players are as individuals. So we just got to, as starters, we got to kick us off better, which we know that we will do. We'll be fine.
Jimmy, I want to commend you for being a true competitor. You'll show up regardless of what the score is. How would you describe yourself as a competitor on the court?
I just do whatever it takes to win. I pride myself on that. It doesn't matter how many points, how many shots, how many assists. The main goal in this game is to always win. So when you do see me out there competing, it doesn't matter how we get there. We didn't get there tonight, but I always play to win.
Was there a moment in the fourth you thought you might go back in?
Yeah, of course. But I would want, the unit that was out there to close it out. They did it, for me. They worked so hard to get us back in the game, getting buckets, getting stops. It's only right that they keep going and lead us to victory. Hurt.
Dillon, what did you think was the key to you guys coming out here tonight and getting such a decisive victory?
I would say not changing anything, keeping to the game plan, following the game plan to a T, and our ball pressure was amazing tonight. It rattled a lot of their players, and we need to somehow replicate that same game on the road.
This is for Dillon. It seems like as soon as they put a smaller player on you, you go straight to the post, and you've had a lot of success, especially against Curry. Is that something you knew you'd be able to take advantage of coming into this series?
Yeah. A lot of the work I put in the summer was for that very thing. Last playoffs I was in, I couldn't shoot the ball. I couldn't, score the basketball. Everyone thought I was a defender, and that's what I did because of that. But, over the summer, I wanted to get past that hump and get back to where I was before. That's where I get a lot of success is in the post, track double teams, and either, I shoot the ball for myself or I play make to get open shots. So that's just my role on this team.
Dillon, Jabari had mentioned being nervous. Jalen said the lights were bright. Amen told me he felt like he wasn't playing like himself. But what have you liked about the way that the young guys, Alperen included, are growing throughout their first playoff series?
They're sticking to, the details of the playoffs. Every possession matters. Every loose ball, rebound, shot we take, it matters. And that's nothing to get worked up or get tight about. It's just, understanding that, you can't turn over the ball. We need possessions. We need good possessions. And I feel like, young guys are learning, how to, leave their imprint on the game. And, some nights might not be your night, but, somehow you got to find a way to impact the game. If it's, playmaking, how JG did playmake tonight. If it's, scoring and doing it all like LP, or, giving, a little bit of, life if you're coming off the bench like Jabari. All those things add up into wins, and, that's what we need every game, every minute.
This is for Dillon. Amin Thompson had 8 stocks tonight. What did you see from him defensively in this one?
He was, he took it personal, and that's what we need from every single night. As a defender, you have to take the matchup personal. And he took it personal tonight. He was reading, Steph, reading a lot of the guys staying in front, being disciplined on the defensive end without reaching, without getting fouls. And we need that in men, every single game, because we're going to go against guys. We're going to go against Steph again. We need that same type of mentality, that tenacity that he was playing with. And it gives us a lot of energy. It gives us a lot of, extra possessions, and it makes their best player timid and think. And, that's what we need, for their best players to try to think the game instead of playing in the flow.
Alpy, 5 games into this series, and every game you've gotten more and more effective. Are you starting to recognize earlier what they're trying to do to you on the defensive end?
I mean, yeah, we watch we watch film every after the game and see what they're doing, what they're not doing. So this is 5 games they let me play with. They let me play one-on-one with Draymond, and when somebody else got me, they bring in help. So I just know what it is and trying to find my guys. And when they start the game hot like that, I'm just like trying to do my job, set a good screen and good defense.
Dillon, one of the Warriors broadcasters tonight said he thought you were intentionally trying to swipe down on Curry's thumb, and Kerr was asked about it and said it happens around the league, that it's allowed by the rules, so players throughout the league do that. What do you think about that?
No, I've been playing the game. If you're gonna come play the game injured or whenever you got, it's all about the game. If I had an injured ankle, I would attack that ankle every single time. So, whatever they're saying on the broadcast, they can keep saying it.
Do you think that you and Ime are kind of kindred spirits a bit in a way? I saw you kind of stopped him from getting a bit of a shoving match with Gary Payton.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of myself in him in that moment, and I know when I get in that moment, a lot of older guys or the guys that know me will come and push me out the way and not mess up a play. And in this series, there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion that's being played. So me just being the new me, being real composed and I wouldn't say laid back, but more attentive to the game. That I don't want any mess ups or things coming out of passion and enthusiasm.
Alpy, you guys have been in each of these games. You've had some leads before. What was the difference tonight where you guys were able to build on what you started and really finish it off?
I mean, nobody wants to go home, so that was a win-win game. There was no chance. There was no option for us to lose. So that mentality, we came to game, start the game, and just, there's been 4 games, lead changes all the time. So that was a good look for us to not letting them come back.
For both of you guys, since you both were involved, what happened there at the end with the Spencer shove and the headbutt?
He's talking too much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
How early? Steve seemed to think like the 3 fouls early was a bad sign about how you focused you guys were defensively. How early did you know it might be this type of night?
That was a tough stretch because we started the game, I don't know if it was 8-2 or something like that. Had a couple good possessions, hit some threes. And then the game kind of halted with, they got in the bonus in 4.5 minutes. So, one hand, they were the aggressor. The first 3 fouls were, I guess they were fouls and it kind of set the tone. And then, they got confidence, went on a run, got the crowd into it early, and the desperate team set the tone. So for us, we understand how to negate that going into Game 6 and come out with a better effort in that first 6 minutes to set the tone our way.
Steph, how much does this remind you of Memphis, the Game 5 in Memphis 3 years ago? And is one of the beauties of all your playoff experience that you have basically a comp for every scenario?
Yeah, there's definitely something you could look back on part of the journey, but that's all well and great to talk about. You have to go do something about it on the court. And, we talked about our group is trying to do this for the first time together. And I love that challenge because, we have an opportunity to, write our own story and how we bounce back. And we've had a pretty, resilient group over the last 2 months, and it has to show on Friday.
How cognizant are you about the way that they're closing out on your jump shot, particularly, swiping down on your thumb?
You don't think about it. And if it's a foul, they should call it. That's it. If it's a foul, they should call it.
Steph, you were talking about getting off to a good start. How much of that do you feel like is on you to do? Even
On the
though
what?
on you, like how much of a getting the right energy and urgency is on you, even though they're kind of playing the kitchen sink defense against you?
Yes, it's a balance. I think we have some things that we can do going into Game 6 to get more organized and get a better rhythm offensively, whether it's me taking shots or not. But I did notice tonight was an even more concerted effort. Thompson got me twice at half court when I was trying to set up a play, worrying about, everything that was going on behind and not worrying about him. And then there were a couple possessions where you get downhill and you see a lot of white jerseys. So you just got to figure out where the driving angles are. We need to get Jimmy more involved in the half court with the right spacing around him. And then, we all got to make shots. So it is on me to balance all of that and, put some points on the board and get ourselves some rhythm early.
Steph, following up on Danny's question, Steve was asked about Brooks swiping down and basically said it's a league-wide issue. The league allows it after the shot's released, and teams everywhere do it, and the league needs to address it in the offseason. What do you think about the larger question of contact after release?
There's a pattern of when is full extension, when is what's the full point of release? Because it's hard for a ref. I get it. You're trying to look at the body, look at the release and where contact is. There's a subtle difference in how certain people do it. That when I say if it's a foul, it's a foul. But other than that, as a player, you can't worry about it too much because whether you get the call or not, if you complain or you can complain. If you dwell on it and get distracted by it, then you're not worried about making shots. I'm trying to do both, make shots, and if I get fouled, let them know I got fouled. So that's all.
What's the state of your thumb right now?
Cold.
There was a picture, I don't know if you've seen it online, where it looks pretty swollen. I think it was with you walking to the plane.
I got the feds on me? What are you talking about?
No, the internet is the feds at this point.
I love this league so much. I love it so much.
How is your thumb? Besides cold because you're icing it.
I don't even know how to answer it. It's just something you're dealing with and you keep it moving. As long as I can play. You got to rap for a reason, but that's it.
Do you feel it's impacting your game at all?
No. No. Not at all.
Just what stuck out about the way the bench competed in the last 18 minutes?
They took the challenge on the games going the opposite way, and we tried to encourage them at that 6-minute mark in the third. Just go out there, compete. What they did, they made their starters come back in, which is was something. And, you know, they brought a level of energy and competitiveness that was kind of remarkable, to be honest, like to sustain that for that long. So, you know, they did an amazing job, and hopefully that'll kind of get us going in the sense of good morale and good energy going into Game 6.
And Mr. Curry, I know we didn't see it tonight, but we've seen you and Jimmy Butler do some damage on the floor together. Can you talk about your chemistry and what you've seen him add to the roster on the court and off the court?
A guy that understands, you know, especially this time of year, what it means and what it takes to win. You've seen what he did coming back for his last game off of an injury and giving us everything he had. And we expect that to continue, hopefully closing out this series in Game 6 and beyond.
It's too much money.
Fred, the resilience and fight that you guys showed tonight to bounce back, is that something that you've seen develop over the course of this season or over the past several seasons? Or, you know, how do you think that that's progressed since you've been here?
It's just who we are, honestly. It's been here since I got here. It's one of the first impressions that I had with this group is just how tough and resilient that they are. And may not always get it right. Definitely not far from perfect, you know, at times, but being able to bounce back and have short-term memory is one of the best things about being a young team is they don't necessarily know what's at stake all the time. So it can go good for you or it can go bad for you. But I just thought we've played some good basketball in this series, and the margin of error is so small. So you just don't want to get carried away when you fall short. You know, you got to bounce back. It's first to 4.
You had 14 points in that first quarter. Do you feel like you should or have to be kind of a catalyst for this team? Not that you're forcing shots, but are you trying to push the action?
Just being aggressive again, taking what the defense gives me. I always got to walk that line of finding what's best for our team, and you know, I wear a lot of hats out there and carry a lot of weight for this group. So I'm always trying to find what's the best option, and sometimes I forget to do my thing too and just play my game. So it's opened up for me that way the last couple of games. Been able to make some shots. Teammates found me in good spots, but I'm happy with the wins. I'm not necessarily focused on that.
Fred, can you talk about that a little more? You said you wear a lot of hats. We know that you kind of keep things in order, but just how much you've worked with the young guys, and you've seen them really grow just in this series, each game with it being many of their first playoff series.
Yeah, again, I'm here to share and lead and quarterback and put guys in positions, but I still have to play at a high level if we're going to be a good team. So been able to get back to that over the last couple of games. But again, it's just so much going on and so much is new to this team, and we're playing so many young guys. It's their first experience. Their heads get to spinning a little bit at times. So just trying to calm them down and get them in good spots to just play the game. We play our brand of basketball at a high level. I feel good about us, you know, against anybody. And we've seen that at times, and we've seen it go the other way at times. So we got to lean into that a little bit more.
Fred, Alpy had a team-high 9 assists. What does that do for you and kind of everybody else when he's facilitating at that level?
It makes our offense that much more dynamic, gives guys easy shots. He can do that whenever he wants to. He's such a gifted scorer. But continue to read the defense. They're kind of bluffing a little bit. They're doubling, they're not doubling, they're sending help on the spin. So he's got to continue to read that, and that's part of his development as a go-to guy. But he can draw and kick whenever he wants to and get guys shots. And so we just got to be ready to knock him down. And obviously the more we make, the more willing he is to pass it. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing there. But we continue to need him to create shots for himself and for others. And he's done that at a high level.
Fred, as a seasoned playoff veteran, was there anything you said to the guys or anything you did to help them respond in the way they did with their backs against the wall?
No, just keep them focused. I think the biggest thing to do is to dive into the film, watch your minutes, watch your plays, see where you can be better, and keep everything light and fresh and confident, and understand that we have played good basketball. It's not like we're getting our ass kicked the whole time. You know what I mean? We've 2 runs there in the last game. The free throws. I mean, I'm not going to go down the list of all the things of how close it's been, but we haven't come out on top the way we want to, and we got to find ways to win late.
Fred, how much did you see in Amen Thompson taking this game personal tonight?
Yeah, again, I know he hasn't played up to the level where he wants to. He's another guy that's trying to figure it out. They're throwing a lot of different things at him, different coverages, different players, personnel. He's trying to find his way, but I think he found something late in the last game of getting downhill, being aggressive, being in attack mode. And when he gets his feet under him and he finds his rhythm and gets his imprints on the game, you see what it looks like. And he was able to do that tonight. So we need him, obviously, in attack mode and super aggressive. He gets mad anytime anybody scores on him. So, he's always taking that matchup personally, and he's obviously a huge part of what we do.
Fred, you've talked about the fact these guys are like learning on the job right now and what to expect game 1 and 2 and then go on the road. What do they have had to have learned now going back on the road to deal with it a little bit better game 6?
Yeah, I think just not be as shell-shocked, by the crowd and by the runs and by the highs and the lows. And we've responded within the game. But, again, like I talked about, the margin is very small, especially on the road. So we got to play at a higher level. We got to execute better, better attention to detail, not get lost in the flow and the fluff of the game and the crowd and all the extras that go on when you're on the road. And the more we can kind of hunker down and stay a tight-knit group and communicate at a high level and follow the game plan, I think we'll be all right.